Welcome to the Schuh Show. That's Rob Schuh. I'm Grant Cohn. We didn't do this last week. Did we do this last week?
We did not. I was in Las Vegas having
Right.
myself a damn fine time, and we decided to postpone.
And it was right in the middle of the draft, too. Now the draft is over. So we'll get into our thoughts on the draft, although I think people are kind of drafted out a bit because it was so last week. But we're going to get into some undrafted free agent stuff. I think people like that. Let's start off with this report from yesterday from Matt Lombardo, who I'd never heard of. God love Matt Lombardo. He's got a lot of followers over in Philly. He said that he's heard that the Niners coaches have been continually underwhelmed. His phrase, by Trey Lance. I'm sure you saw this. Buy or sell.
I did.
This report.
I'm selling it. It seems borderline ridiculous on some level, because this is an organization that has, underneath the Lynch and Shanahan era, not leaked information unless it is intentional. And this is not the type of intentional information that this organization wants to put out there. They're attempting to build up Trey Lance. They're not going to tear him down by leaking something like this. This just, to me, flies in the face of everything the 49ers organization has done with this the idea of putting information out there to the public.
I hear what you're saying. I don't have a life-size picture of Jed York or John Lynch sort of like having this coordinated narrative that they tell everyone in the world and then being like, hey, Matt Lombardo, let me tell you how we really feel. That's not what I think is. Here's what I think. Let me give Matt Lombardo the benefit of the doubt, because he's just a journalist. I don't think he's just some fraud trying to get attention. I think he's a journalist who probably heard something from someone. Yeah. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, okay? Because a lot of people dismiss me when I hear information, so I'm not going to do that. I don't even know who he is. Someone probably told him something. The way I'm thinking is that it's someone who's not in the organization anymore.
Interesting.
If I'm just benefit of the doubt here, the guy probably heard something. I'm thinking it's someone maybe with an axe to grind, maybe with nothing to hold back anymore. Didn't say it on the record. Someone who's not in the organization anymore. We're talking coaches. He mentioned coaches. A lot of coaches left the organization.
There's a couple options.
So to me, I think there's probably something to this. I'm guessing there was a big split in opinion last year on, should Trey Lance be here? Why is he here? Do we need him? Is he good? Will he be good? I bet you there was a whole set of opinions inside the organization. We know there was outside. And I'm guessing maybe one coach, a couple maybe, were like, I don't see it. And I'm guessing those coaches are gone. And I'm guessing the coaches they brought in this year are enthusiastic, like Brian Griese. Imagine the things he had to say about Trey Lance to get this job.
Right. I'm sure they were glowing, my friend.
Anthony Lynn, imagine the things he had to say to get this job about Lance. So maybe this was true at one time, but I'm guessing the coaches that felt this way, Kyle probably knows they feel this way and probably got them out of the organization because that's his job. Once you pick Trey Lance, you got to surround him with people who are all in.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, you have a couple of coaches that are gone that would have had close access, a couple that may have an axe to grind. I mean, John Embry comes to mind, right? I mean, the way in which that unfolded didn't seem totally fair to him, asking him to take a pretty huge pay cut. I'm not saying that this would have come from John Embry, but just as a hypothetical, there are some voices out there where you could see them being a little bit irritated putting this information out.
There's also Wes Welker, who's gone. There's also the quarterback coach.
Rich Scangarello.
This is the guy who worked with the quarterbacks. And I'm not accusing Scangarello. I have no freaking idea. But I do know that Scangarello was here in 2017, and he worked with Jimmy.
Right.
He got a job. Right. Jimmy won those 5 games. Everyone was like, wow, Scangarello's great. Scangarello prepared him. And off of that 5-game thing, he became an offensive coordinator for the Broncos. Now, he failed in a year, got fired. He was awful. But then when the Niners brought him back last year, it was to work with Jimmy.
Yes.
That's, you know what I'm saying? So I could see him being like, why is this? Because Trey Lance is essentially, his presence in the organization was spelling the end of Rich Scangarello's. You're not here.
It did, right?
Jimmy? Well, Jimmy's going to be gone soon, and so are you.
Yeah. It was a 1-year assignment, right? He came in to work with Jimmy. Jimmy was on the way out. So you could see that being a little bit of an axe to grind. I go back to, what the organization has been putting out to refute what came out in this report. And the team sources, Matt Mayoko at the Super Bowl speaking with Jay Glazer, he had to say, I heard they love him. They're enamored with him. He does some things in practice that makes you go, oh my goodness. Another conversation with Peter, I'm forgetting the last name, but another individual that he spoke with at Super Bowl week. Again, glowing things to say. And even this gentleman, this reporter, came out, his opinion on Trey Lance is glowing. After the draft, he comes out to say, I love Trey Lance's arm strength and ability to make big-time throws on the run as an ideal scheme fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense. The 49ers made the right call by a country mile at number 3.
I just don't underwhelmed in what context,
right?
Like he's not ready to. If they traded up thinking he's going to be Patrick Mahomes and more, then maybe they're underwhelmed. Maybe he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. But if it's like, should we make him the starter over Jimmy? Like, to me, he always should have been the starter over Jimmy. The reason they went with Jimmy is because Trey was a rookie and they felt they had a championship roster and they went with the known quantity. But if it was just based on numbers, Trey had better numbers in training camp. I just checked out the preseason numbers. He had better numbers in preseason. He had more yards per attempt. He had more touchdowns, the same number of picks, a better quarterback rating. So but the thing is, he broke his finger, right?
Right.
He might have won the job. We'll never know what happened. I don't understand this whole underwhelmed thing. Like, if they're underwhelmed with Lance, how do they feel about Jimmy? Do they hate Jimmy? I mean, what is the context here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. And earlier, the name that escaped me was Peter King was the other individual that was interviewed during the Super Bowl week. Sure. I agree. When I look at Lance, you look at the preseason, almost beat out Jimmy Garoppolo. You look at the regular season, they were a hair's breadth away from making the switch from Jimmy to Trey. I mean, you don't do that with
touchdown pass of the season. Sorry.
Right. No, you just don't make that switch if you're underwhelmed. And how are you underwhelmed at this point with what that you've seen? I mean, with his practice, because we all saw what he did from week 5 to week 17. We all saw the progression and the way in which he played in the second half against the Houston Texans. So that's all evidence that we have access to.
Also, I feel like last year Trey Lance was just a total victim of over-analysis.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? People were talking about the velocity, his touch, the wobbles on his passes. Like, he's a rookie. Hold on. If you go back and just look at the stats with all the bias out, like everyone, it doesn't look good on film. He appeared in 3 games. Okay.
Yeah.
He threw at least 15 passes in all 3. 2 of the games, his quarterback rating was over 115. What more do you want from a rookie? I mean, one of the starts was rough against Arizona. It was his first start. The other 2 appearances, while it was a mixed showing on film, the end result was really good. So I definitely Jimmy Garoppolo could do something. Like, he had 3 appearances, 2 were over 150. Like, the other rookies, Davis Mills had 3 over 115 in 12 games, and Mac Jones had 4 in 17 games. So, really, like, how are they underwhelmed? I thought he looked pretty freaking great. The game against Houston, people say, oh, it was Houston. It was a must-win game. They were losing at halftime. He eviscerated them in the second half.
They had just beaten the Chargers. I mean, people talk about struggling teams in the NFL as if they're junior varsity, as if they're college level. That's just not true. The difference between the best teams and the worst teams in the NFL is a couple of star players, right? You see worst to first transitions in the NFL every single year. It's because of the parity. It's because these teams are so close. So I won't accept that argument that the game against the Texans somehow doesn't count.
Yeah, and like, I feel like this reporter or his source and people that believe this theory really think that Trey's going to be so bad that a guy like Nate Sudfeld is going to end up being better. Because he knows how to play the position the right way. There's no way that Nate Sudfeld would have beaten the Houston Texans week 16 with the season on the line. It wouldn't have happened. There's no way.
Yeah, story like this seems like confirmation bias to most people, that you came in with an opinion one way or the other, and this type of a story isn't going to sway you one way or the other. It's just going to give you either evidence to back up what you already believed, or you're going to dismiss it, as I have, because I have faith in Trey Lance and what I've seen with my own 2 eyes.
I mean, he does have a lot to prove, but I expect he's going to do well this offseason. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think Brian Greasy's never seen him practice.
No.
Anthony Lynn has never seen him practice. So I don't think those guys are underwhelmed, overwhelmed, regular whelmed. There's no whelm going on. They need
Zero whelm.
Zero whelm. They got to get to know this guy. So this seems like at best old news.
I agree. I concur.
Okay, let's move on. The Deebo Samuel drama saga is so interesting because
oh my goodness,
he took this up to DEFCON 11 real early in freaking April. He's like, I don't have a contract yet. I'm out. Don't call me. It's over. And then so he talks to reporters. He makes a big drama out of it. Well, God love him. He wanted his money. The Niners were like, respectfully, no, we're not going to trade you unless we get a king's ransom. Draft came by. No king's ransom was offered. The Niners don't trade him. All of a sudden, Deebo Samuel refollows the Niners on Instagram. Like, you know what? Psych. Just kidding. Why do you think Deebo Samuel suddenly seems to have softened his stance on this trade?
I do have to say that his softening of his stance leads me to believe that there was a bit of showmanship going on to the original stance. I have to take that viewpoint because otherwise it's a complete 180, right? I mean, that just seems like too big of a reversal. And so my estimation is Deebo understood the leverage he had with social media, what he could, the pressure he could apply to the organization. And he did just that, Grant. I mean, we lost our minds. We collectively freaked the F out, right? And that worked in Deebo's favor. It got the 49ers organization moving.
The Niners, though? No. They chilled. No. They were like, this is going to work its way. And let's just let's let him chill out. They did not freak out.
And good organizations, strong organizations can do that. If you're the Browns, if you're another organization that has struggled for a long period of time, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you can't do that. You can't take the high position, the high ground, and just, stand your ground. You have to capitulate a little bit to the pressure of the outside sources. I think the San Francisco 49ers did what I would have wanted to do in that situation. They were respectful to Deebo. The outside voice that they put out was definitely, hey, we understand that Deebo is upset. We're going to work with Deebo. We want him in this building, but they didn't go ahead and trade him for less than what they felt his value was.
I think Deebo softened his stance because he had a big time realization that he overvalued his own market.
Ooh.
I mean, I think he thought that if he did this before the draft, teams would be lining up to trade for him. But what we learned is that only 2 teams offered a first-round pick.
Right.
The Jets, who aren't good, and offered the 10th pick, but also wanted the Niners' 61st pick back, which means that he's not worth as much as he would think. And then the freaking Lions, who offered the 32nd pick and a 3rd-round pick, which is, I mean, less than what A.J. Brown went for, right? A.J. Brown went for pick 18 and a 3rd-round pick. So all of a sudden, it's a very sober awakening. It's a sobering awakening. Like, wow, not only do the Niners not look at me the way I want to be looked at, but the rest of the league agrees with the 49ers. Maybe I don't have any leverage here. Maybe I should just make up with the 49ers and do it, Maybe this is the best option after all. Maybe I really don't have these options I thought I did.
Yeah, I certainly agree that he lost his leverage as soon as the 49ers didn't bite. As soon as they held on to him, I mean, they have that contractual leverage over Deebo Samuel. There's just no two ways about it. He can definitely fight against it, but it's an uphill battle from here on out. And I would say that you're correct, and he probably had a little bit of a realization around his value throughout the rest of the league, and in looking at the contract that A.J. Brown did get after being traded to the Eagles. Has to be a little bit of a reality check as to what he might expect himself. And so you would think it benefited him to come back to the table now that he knows he's got to negotiate with the San Francisco 49ers, and there's no brighter idea of, well, maybe a team like Miami, maybe somewhere I want to play. No, Detroit and New York. Those could have been brutal places to end up. Maybe New York turns things around, but it seems like a long road to hoe in Detroit. So, I would guess that he had a bit of a wake-up call.
Like, wow, I'm not going to end up going to the Dolphins. I'm not going to end up going to the Texans. This is probably the best place for me. Maybe I should mend these fences. I think that's what's happening. And I think if the Niners are probably more than eager. Great. But I think what's interesting is I want to know, did Deebo actually accomplish anything here? Did his price go up, or did the Niners just sit there and say, well, when we do negotiate, that was very immature, Deebo. We were not impressed. We were not impressed by how you handled this offseason. So now, I don't know. I just wonder, did his price go up? Did his price go down? It might have just stayed the same. How about that? Maybe this was just a bunch of sound and fury signifying nothing.
Right. I mean, that is entirely possible. My gut says that he did negotiate up a bit. I think that it worked. There was significant pressure. I see the 49ers having to have reached out to initially mend those fences because they couldn't have gone into the draft unsure of where Deebo was. They had to get some sense from him that it was not going to go nuclear if they held on to him. So my guess is that, again, they would have had to sort of capitulate on some of that and come to him with flowers in hand, if you will.
Final thought on this. We don't know that it's over. We don't know what Deebo Samuel's thinking. It just seems like he's soft in his trade stance because all of a sudden he's following the Niners again. But who knows? He could unfollow him tomorrow. He seems to have everyone on the edge of their seat and likes it. So we'll see where this goes. We shall see if there's a happy ending. But so far, it looks like he's kind of backing down.
It's a volatile situation, Grant.
Volatile. Thank you, Gut Mob Dasani, for becoming a new member. We definitely needed a Gut Mob in the crew. Aaron says, if Jimmy stays, what if Kyle uses the dual quarterback offense with Jimmy and Trey, especially since Trey had a full year to learn the playbook? Yeah, man, because Jimmy's a real asset now. What would Trey? Would Trey just play a running back in that point, or would you just have two balls in the field? How do you do two quarterbacks on the same field at the same time?
Especially after Kyle Shanahan. Yeah.
He has it. No, I have it. No, he has it. I like that.
Psych.
I like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Kyle Shanahan saying he struggled with the two quarterback system. It doesn't seem like
have two guys lined up under center and then you don't know which guy got the ball. Can you do that? Is that allowed? I wonder. Matthew Sanders says, not only did Deebo lose leverage versus Parag, he's lost a big percentage of the fan base support as well. That is true. He would have been better speaking softly, plus big stick. Yeah, I'm curious. Did he actually accomplish anything? That'll be interesting to see. Because he's acting like someone who thinks he didn't. He's acting like someone who's like, you know what? I better change my tone.
What I noticed as well, though, is a lot of fans change their tune as well. I mean, I'm not just going to put this on Deebo for the 180. There were a lot of haters who were like, well, get Deebo out of here. Forget him. I don't need him anyways on my team if he doesn't want to play here. And now he's back there like, welcome back, Deebo.
Yes. They're like, they trade Deebo? Oh, this is the best day ever.
Yeah. Yep. So, stay consistent with the energy.
Bit off topic, but what's your opinion on Antonio Brown calling out Kaepernick, calling him a scrub in his play on the field and grifting in the streets with social justice, not helping in the hood? I mean, I don't really think it's really our place to talk about it. It's kind of black people talking about black people, and I'm white and Rob's white. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting in that context. I think a lot of black people are mad at Antonio Brown being like, why are you taking this stance? Because you're only making certain white people happy. But I don't really look at Antonio Brown as a guy who's trying to curry favor with the white community. I just feel like this is a difference of opinion among black people. I don't really know. I thought it was interesting, though. I mean, at the same time, Antonio Brown, man, it's hard to listen to him talk and think that he actually knows what he's talking about anything, dude. But anyway, he doesn't come across as super, thoughtful. Antonio Brown.
Would be my only thought on it, is that Antonio Brown is just a bit all over the place in recent years. And, I hope he gets some help, because it seems like he's got some mental issues over these past few years.
I mean, it didn't, when he was talking about Kaepernick, it didn't seem like he put a whole lot of thought in it. His whole attitude was his whole message was basically fuck Kaepernick. Okay. And then stuff he said, some of it might have had a point. Other parts were wait a second. So yeah, I mean, it's, I guess. I just kind of interested that Antonio Brown would just have that visceral reaction. Why?
Yeah. No, that's strange.
Yeah. But Michael Thomas, Saints guy, was like, oh, he's not wrong though. So that's interesting. It seems like there's almost this difference of opinion inside a community that I'm not inside of. So I'm just an outsider being like, oh, okay. Because I think a lot of people have sort of felt that way about Kaepernick. Is he really, how authentic is he? He came to this late. Where was he earlier? You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, I don't know Kaepernick like that. And anyway, I had nothing to add to that. I'm sorry. Antonio Brown. That guy, I can't believe he's still doing podcasts. Is this the best offseason to cover the Niners? Last year's was good. Last year's was pretty good. This one's might be better. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I have to give it a 9.
It's pretty crazy to go back-to-back off seasons with so much drama.
Yeah, I would agree. I need to get a new mouse. I just clicked this one to death. All right. It is time to discuss the wildest Jimmy Garoppolo rumor ever. Now, there's been some good Jimmy Garoppolo rumors, but this one takes cake.
Yes, it does.
Let me bring it up. Oh, I lost it. Okay, here we go. So this was actually DM'd to me a few days ago. I don't always check my DMs from people I don't follow, but sometimes I do. And I saw this, and someone said, "Grant, have you checked this?" And it seemed so ridiculous. I didn't follow up. But then someone else tweeted it, and I was like, "Well, okay, so it's really making the rounds." Here it is. It was an email. At the top, it says pseudonyms, please, macaroni and cheese. I don't know what that means. Email, it says one game at a time.com. Already seems fishy. Subject, not always a happy ending, quote unquote. Message. A few years back, it was rumored that GOAT quarterback, i.e. Tom Brady, felt threatened by his prospective replacement, i.e. Jimmy Garoppolo, which resulted in shock trade of said new talent and major divide in management because head coach wanted to keep him. Please block out this next part in parentheses for privacy. The real reason, all quotes, all caps, for the trade was because quarterback knocked up owner's much younger girlfriend. This all tracks. Owner publicly claimed to not father the child. Traded player is a bust, and quarterback legend continues to win with his fame. Take one for the team attitude. That is the email. And just because someone wrote an email and passed it around doesn't mean it's true. In fact, it's I don't know. First of all, rate this rumor on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of believability, then execution, and then flair.
I mean, believability, I've got to say, Grant, it's possible. It's even plausible. Like, I'm going to go that good, far.
Right? It's like, well, he did go on a date with Kiara Mia, and he has no real romantic life to be. I mean, it's all mystery. So I think at this point, it's believable.
There are 2 facts.
Is it a 7 or the 8 on the believability scale?
I'm saying it's a 7 on the believability scale.
Yes.
There are 2 facts at play here. One, known fact that yes, Kraft's girlfriend did in fact have a baby, and it was not Kraft's. That much is true. That is publicly confirmed.
Yes.
And number 2, Jimmy is a handsome man. So let's just put that out there. It increases the probability that he could have been the father of that child.
Okay, so we got a 7 for believability. Now, execution. Just looking at the email, the way they wrote it, pseudonyms, macaroni and cheese, email at one game at a time. What do you think? To me, it's a little over the top. It's almost
over
like
the
a ransom note with the little cutout letters from the magazine. It's like, come on.
It's very over the top, but I really do enjoy a couple of the lines in there. I won't repeat them for your audience's sake, but there were some good ones. And so, from an execution standpoint, I'm going to say it's a 6. It's above average. It's a wild out there rumor, but it was a playful way in which they put it out there, which is how it should be addressed in this type of a fantasy land rumor.
Yeah, the subject line alone brings it up to a 6, maybe a 7.
Yes.
The subject line alone, absolutely. And then finally, I don't know. How else can we capture the greatness of this report?
Well, flair. I mean, I think you hit it with that one. Flair, it's a 10 to me. Like it's a spectacular rumor to throw out there. Whether it's true or not, it's a great rumor to float out there as just off-season fodder. I mean, to connect the dots and to have for sure Kraft is not the father. So there's at least a basis for the rumor.
Someone was reading that. It's like, so hold on. So Kraft has a kid that's not his kid, and who could it have been? What
the timing?
Let's say it's Jimmy. That's terrible. Anyway,
what I love is a lot of outlets have run with this. I Googled it, and there's like half a dozen stories about this.
Yeah, some lady from the Ringer quote tweeted it with just a yes. So everyone's like trying to. I don't know, man. I wonder if Jimmy Garoppolo is ever actually going to have to answer a question about this on the record, because that would just be the living end.
That would be amazing. If he ends up on an East Coast team, it's possible that some reporter asks him.
there were reports that the Patriots were trying to trade for this guy the last couple of years. You wouldn't think they would do that if this were true. Although, who knows? I just don't understand how rich people work. So,
right.
Billionaires. Who knows?
Maybe he's no longer with his girlfriend and he's moved past it. But I mean, if I'm throwing it out there, believability in actuality, do I believe it? No, probably not. I think it's much more likely just a rumor.
Yeah, but I agree. I think it's just a rumor. I don't.
But it's a fun rumor.
It's a good one. All right, moving on. Do you think the Niners should have made any draft day trades? I mean, teams usually do. They had 9 picks. They made none.
I most definitely do believe that they should have made some freaking trades. There are 23 rookies coming in, Grant. 23. That's a lot of rookies for a team that was just in the NFC Championship game, and we all say, the Niners are a very deep team. They're a very deep team.
One of the best rosters in the league, right? That's what fans say.
That's the story. And so 23 rookies are going to come in and make the team. 9 drafted rookies are going to come in and make the team. No, this feels a lot like the 49ers threw bodies at a situation. Like, we got a lot of holes that are kind of holes that we've put a Band-Aid over, at safety. We're going to have some really good competition, and that's going to be great. And so we'll just bring in a lot of guys. Some of them will be studs, and it'll be clear who we keep, who sticks around. What I'm worried about is
iron sharpens iron, Rob.
Yes, iron sharpens
iron. Didn't you know that?
I've heard that somewhere, I swear.
In the Niners roster right now.
It's worrisome to me because I don't think that the 49ers have a track record of correctly sussing out who their stud rookies are. Like, they seem to have this problem in actually finding out early on in players' careers whether they can contribute right away or not. I mean, look at last year's draft class. It was all over the place in that regard. So do I think that out of those 23 freaking rookies that are going to be showing up, that the Niners select the correct ones to stay on the roster? I mean, I hope they do, but I can't say that I'm overly confident. Trades would have allowed them to target specific players, bring in fewer bodies, and have a higher level of talent amongst the field of candidates. To me, that would have been the smarter path.
Teams that just stand pat and go BPA all the time usually are like teams that are so far away from contention that it doesn't make sense for them to move around, or teams that like just won the Super Bowl and feel they have the best roster in the league. And again, they just take BPA. But like you're like just on the cusp. Usually teams on the cusp feel like they are one move away. Also,
right,
you don't have a first round pick. So you have these later picks. Your first pick is 61. You're supposed to be a premier team. A lot of these rookies aren't going to help you right away. So there's that. You would think that a team like – also, there's the fact that you kept Jimmy Garoppolo and you didn't use that cap space. And as a result, you have glaring holes at starting positions, strong safety and center. You still don't know who your center is unless Alex Mack comes back. Given all of that, you would think a team in that position would move up.
Yeah.
Like, you have 9 picks, go get a starting center, or go get a starting strong safety, someone that you feel is up to playing on this caliber of a team, and go win the Super Bowl. But this team is like, first of all, they're so arrogant. They're like, we don't have any weaknesses. Center? Yeah. We have a plan. Strong safety? We have a plan. What we're going to do is we're going to stand at 61 and add to the deepest position on our team. Edge rusher, defensive end is the deepest position on the team. Nick Bosa, Samson Ebukam, Kerry Hyder, Charles Menahu, Kamoko Toure,
right,
and Jordan Willis. That's 6 NFL quality edge rushers. Now you added a 7th. That's great, man. That's terrific. But it's kind of arrogant in a way, right? Like, we have no weaknesses, so let's just add to our strength. Boom. Boom. I don't know. To me, they had a real opportunity to trade up to 51 and get Cam Jurgens, who would be their starting center for a while. They could have gotten Creed Humphrey, who would have been their starting center for a while. That's a real need. Unless Alex Mack comes back and plays 2 more years, you're probably going to regret not getting a center in this draft. Probably going to regret it.
I think that's a distinct possibility. I like the pick at 61, so just a little bit of a difference of opinion there. But I think
he's going to be really good. Let me just say
93, at 93, to me, Grant, that was the freaking sweet spot to trade. They could have traded up. They missed Marcus Jones at 85, Dylan Parham at 90, Rachaad White at 91, which makes me wonder if the Buccaneers jumping up to 91 to take Rachaad White caused the panic pick for the 49ers at 93. The other thing to note is that the Niners, every year, they have these gold helmet players. And Matt Barrows had that long conversation with Adam Peters, in which Adam Peters admitted the 49ers did not draft any of their gold helmet players, the ones they have the highest marking on in the draft. They typically have 15 to 20. Peters said that there were fewer in this draft than usual, so you would assume less than 15. But the Niners had 9 assets that they could have moved around in order to grab one of those guys. They ended up with 0. I think that's worth calling out.
And I do feel that Drake Jackson's going to be a stud in like year 2 or year 3. But as a rookie, I don't think he's going to play that much right away.
More of a pass down specialist.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the end of the season, he'll be getting most of the third down reps, but maybe not at the beginning. He'll have to earn that. So again, that's fine. But this is a team that was just in the NFC Championship game. You think you could have traded up for an instant impact player. Drake Jackson's going to be an impact player, but maybe not right away. Maybe not right away, because you have 6 grown men you got Kamoko Toure this offseason. He's really good. And you still have Ebukam. You still have I like Willis. I like Hyder. I mean, Hyder's had 8 sacks the last time he was on this team. So there's a lot of grown men that this guy's going to have to beat out, and he will eventually. He'll earn it. Yeah. But you could have traded up for Jaquan Brisker. You could have traded up for Cam Jurgens. You want a wide receiver? You could have traded up for Sky Moore. And you stood pat and didn't draft, and you added to the strongest position on your team. Fine. Because you have no weaknesses. Yeah. I'm just saying, if you had gotten rid of Jimmy and addressed safety and center in free agency, by all means, stay at 61 and don't trade and take BPA. By all means.
Absolutely. Those are the 2 positions that had Band-Aids applied to them, much like the defensive end position in getting Toure added at the last moment before the draft. There were Band-Aids applied, but I thought there was a much bigger need at safety and at center. So we're in alignment on that. I wouldn't have gone that direction at 61, but I definitely would have traded up from 93 and not selected a running back in the 3rd round there. I'm a fan of the draft results for the most part. Like overall, I am pleased with what the 49ers did, but this is the one area it feels like the 49ers could have been more aggressive and more decisive. Target some players that you want and bring in fewer bodies. This, again, it feels as if they're throwing bodies at this situation, and how many of these 23 rookies can potentially make this team? And if they don't make this team, aren't those wasted assets?
Yes. As you said, 23 rookie, that's amazing. The coach says, Grant, you're backtracking. Days before the draft, you loathed at the idea of the Niners playing it safe to draft Cam Jurgens. You stated that playing it safe with a 61 pick would be pointless. Also, trade up with what assets? Well, look, it seems to me that the NFL really likes Cam Jurgens. It seemed to me that the way the draft ended up playing out is after him, the NFL isn't looking at really any instant impact centers. That's why a lot of them fell. So if you wanted an instant impact center, it seems like you needed to get the dude who went to Baltimore or this guy. You needed to get one of those 2 guys. Otherwise, you got to like beg Alex Mack to keep playing, or you should have signed Mason Cole in free agency, someone like that. So that's fine. If you don't want Cam Jurgens, you felt you had to reach for him, whatever. I did notice that Jason Kelsey said he's the best center he's seen since him, and that seems like a hell of an endorsement. I mean, he would probably know how to judge centers better than me. I'm just saying, it's a decision that the Niners made that they might regret. I'm not the best drafter either. I'm not sure what I said the Niners should do at 61 this year. What did I say? I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying, hindsight. They might have wanted to trade it up.
Yeah, I actually, in a couple of mocks, predicted who they did take at 61. And so I was on board with that one. That one was a lock for me. I feel good about that. But to trade up from 93 into that 85 range where they could have gotten Marcus Jones, you're not going to have to give up much to jump from 93 to 85 or 93 to 91, as the Bucs did to take Rachaad White. I would have been much more happy with a Rachaad White selection at 91 than I was with our selection at 93.
I guess I keep coming back to, I hear what the coach is saying. What I'm saying is, most of the time, a team that was just in the NFC Championship game is looking to spend that first pick on a guy who's going to be an instant impact player. A lot of snaps, big impact. The Niners took a guy who his rookie year might play 300 snaps. And that's just unusual for a team in the 49ers position. He could end up be a guy who has 100 sacks in his career, and it ends up being one of the best picks in franchise history. It's just strange. Usually in the Niners position, it's kind of counterintuitive. But we've talked about this all offseason. The Niners are acting like a team. They've even said it. Well, we want to dial back our spending this year. Okay, it's all part of the plan. one step back to take two steps forward. The Jimmy Garoppolo Super Bowl window closed. They're waiting on the Trey Lance window to open it. They feel it hasn't opened yet.
I agree. I do think you could see an Aldon Smith type of situation. I'm not predicting that type of dominance, but if you see that level of, some level of contribution on a passing pass rush specialist coming in, that could prove the value worth it. But at 93 with Tyrion Davis-Price, what does he need to do in order to justify that pick? Does he need to be the leading rusher on the team?
Yes. He needs to be really good. Brian Levin says, imagine Trey plays well, not great, gets hurt in the divisional round. Jimmy takes him back to the Super Bowl, win or lose. What do the Niners do next? That would be a lot like what happened in Philly. It'd be tough. It'd be really tough because I win or lose. What do the Niners do next? Well, if they lose, you stick with Trey. If they win, you got a real problem.
Yeah, a real problem. Even if they lose, that would be another scenario of like, oh, we're going to trade Jimmy, but we have a really high value on him. He is worth a lot. And we'd go through another offseason of teams not wanting to trade what the Niners are asking, and it would be a real mess.
It would. They'd have a Lombardi, but it would be exactly what happened to the Eagles. They never really survived that mess, and everyone got fired.
Totally worth it. I will take that in a heartbeat. I will trade pretty much anything for that 6th Lombardi.
Fair. All right. That 3rd round running back pick, Ty Davis-Price, you think that was a panic pick, or do you think it was planned all along?
To me, you can make the case either way. Let's walk through it, and then at the end, I'll see if what you've said swayed me in one direction or the other. But if you go with the panic pick, you look at the Buccaneers trading up to pick 91. They select Rachaad White. Again, the 49ers miss out on what you would assume are a slew of players that they would have been interested in. Marcus Jones goes at 85, 8 picks before the Niners. And then Dylan Parham comes off at 90. Rachaad White at 91 from the Bucs, moving up. As soon as the Bucs did that and took a running back, and then we selected a running back, I wondered if they had jumped ahead to grab Rachaad White. Even Sean Ryan at 92. So that's a list of names that come off. It could have caused the 49ers to jump and fall back on someone that they had a lower grade on. To me, this was a situation where you had a couple of safeties still on the board at that point, and the 49ers decided to go running back, a committee running back, someone who doesn't seem to be a home run hitter. So when I initially looked at this, I leaned towards saying this was a panic move because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a value pick.
I think it could have been a panic move in the sense that maybe it wasn't the running back they wanted, but I don't know. I don't think it was a panic move. I think they did plan to go running back at this spot all along. And the reason I say that is they interviewed Brian Robinson, who went to Alabama and got drafted a few picks later by Washington. So I think they were thinking wide receivers running backs in this area. The question is why? Why did they feel they need to take a wide receiver here? I think it has a lot to do with Deebo. Even though it's starting to look like they're going to mend things, and Deebo followed him on Instagram, and things are getting better, they didn't know how that would go. Deebo was acting like he was real mad, and I think they felt that they needed to be prepared for the worst case scenario, and that's 2 players, a running back and a wide receiver, to replace Deebo. And I think you saw they went back to back in round 3 with their Deebo replacements just in case. And I think that, maybe that's a panic move, but I think Deebo forced their hand. If Deebo had never requested a trade, I don't think they would have went running back, wide receiver back to back in round 3. I think Deebo made them do that.
That makes sense to me. And the planned argument also has some validity. If you're looking at it from a Deebo angle, Deebo was the heaviest running back for the San Francisco 49ers last year. Now you're bringing in a guy who played at 229 pounds last year and then dropped a bunch of weight to run a faster 40 time. But at LSU, he was playing at 229 and has indicated that that's more of the playing weight that is expected of him by the 49ers. And so you're packing on an additional 10 pounds on top of what Deebo would have brought to the table. So it does sort of signify, hey, Deebo, we are not going to need you to punch it in on some of those shorter runs. We are investing in our running back room. And furthering the argument of a planned attack, I agree. The 49ers looked at enough running backs to make it clear they were looking to bring in a running back in this draft. Mitchell was really great last year, but did miss 6 games. Sermon, you would say, seems to be a bit of a miss to this point. And so, again, you've got to fill out that running back room. And to bring in a guy who he's not a home run hitter. He
No.
got caught from behind a lot, but the 49ers did point out, and facts don't lie, he had a top 5 GPS speed during his game against Alabama in November. So out of all the running backs coming out, he was top 5 as far as top miles per hour hit on that GPS tracking device. He still was tackled from behind on that run, which is kind of strange, but there is some
run in
burst
college was 40 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not pretty in that regard. I mean, I don't see this as a great pick, but as far as making the argument for it being planned, you certainly can make a powerful argument for them planning to take a running back, and you could see why they might want a heavier back in backing up what you're saying there about, hey, trying to replace Deebo. They took a heavier running back and they took a wide receiver back to back. Those felt like Deebo picks.
Well, also they were looking at Brian Robinson, who went a few picks later to Washington. Robinson is even bigger than Ty Davis Price. I mean, it seems like they're looking for that type of running back, because although they said they didn't say it, but they're trying to use Deebo less as a running back, they're still going to use him on the outside runs. He scores touchdowns on the
sweep. Elite.
And those, you don't take big hits from defensive linemen outside. Those are hits from DBs and linebackers, and that's okay. They did also use him as a short yardage running back a lot because he's bigger and runs harder than Elijah Mitchell. And I think
a wide back.
It's fair to say enough of that. That's ridiculous. No more. Only bad things can come out of that. And so you saw not only with Ty Davis Price, but their undrafted free agent running back, Jordan Mason, another guy who played at like 225 and is not just a short yardage running back, but it can be a short yardage running back. So they got 2 of them. The Niners used to get these 200-pound, 4.3 one-cut runners. Ty Davis Price isn't that. He's not a one-cut runner at all. He is line up in the shotgun and just plunge between the tackles downhill as hard as you can. That's a big departure from what the Niners have been looking from in the past.
It is. And it does seem to complement the rest of the room. I am excited to see how this plays out. I just wasn't thrilled about the grade that almost everyone had on this player being a round or 2 later. It seemed like a stretch. It didn't seem like great value. It caught me off guard. It wasn't someone I had looked at. But the question I want to ask you is, in a vacuum, if you had to look at this purely from the selection of Davis Price here, what would you say that this says about Trey Sermon? What does this tell you about the Niners feeling about last year's running back draft pick?
I think they feel that he's a mistake, and maybe he's not. But there's a big difference in Ty Davis Price and Trey Sermon. They're both guys who line up in the shotgun. They're inside zone runners from the shotgun. That's a good fit with Trey Lance, because with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's an under center outside zone. So he's a good fit with Trey Lance, but Trey Sermon is not a hard runner. He's more of like, he's slippery, he's elusive, he slides around, but he's not just charging downhill and running over people.
Right.
That's what Ty Davis Price does. So I think the Niners felt like, we don't want this dude stutter step in behind the line. I think we want someone like Deebo who just charges into the defense, and that's what this guy does. And also their undrafted free agent Jordan Mason, way different running styles than Trey Sermon.
It is interesting, too, to compare them to backs that you've seen within Anthony Lynn's scheme. They do feel like a good fit for what Anthony Lynn may bring to the evolution of this run game.
Sure. Evan, thank you. Richie says, looks like Kyle is only picking guys that fit the system on both sides of the ball. BPA, and his system is not the same as BPA everyone else has. Well, one more thing I want to say about the 3rd round. I didn't like the running back pick. You don't have to take a running back in round 3. Every time the Niners have shown late in the draft, undrafted free agents, we're going to talk about the running back they took, Jordan Mason. He looks really good. He looks like might be better than this guy. So to me, even though you need a running back, you can get running backs. Don't draft the running back here. You should have drafted a safety here. We're going to talk about safety in a minute. This was an opportunity to take a safety. Sorry.
It could have been Bobby Turner panic. They didn't have Bobby manning the phones this year, so they may not get one of those late round steals.
Kev says Niners get swept by AFC West this year. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, it is.
They might beat the Raiders.
Dude, I looked at Matt Barrows put out like his best case scenario for the way in which the Niners schedule plays out. And even best case scenario, it's a brutal freaking schedule, Grant.
Super brutal.
Oh,
the coach says we got different problems. The running back position hits different for what we do offensively. Most teams have a decent running game. We need a running game. Yeah. And I think they might run more this year than they even ran last year. And again, the Niners used to be Jimmy Garoppolo under center, tossing left and right, guys trying to get to the edge, one cut, boom. So what they needed was that burst, the speed, and also Kyle would look at the 20-yard shuttle. Because if you're trying to think of like what combine drill measures cutting on 1 foot the best, the 20-yard shuttle. It's a series of what cuts on one leg. So there was sort of a magic number for him. If you look at the running backs he's drafted, 4.2 in the 20-yard shuttle. Even Deebo hit that. So the guys, I mean, this guy isn't anywhere near that. And if you think about it, all of a sudden it's totally different. Trey's going to be in the shotgun a lot of the time, running back right next to him. And the track isn't going to be, wide cut up field. It's going to be that quick between the tackle. And it's like, there's not a big cut you're making there. That's just like running really hard into defensive lineman and linebacker. How tough are you? How big are you? How much velocity can you generate? So I think that's kind of their issue with Trey Sermon. Like, dude.
And the attrition last year was really something. So you could see the 49ers wanting to bulk up that room, add some pounds to their running backs. The heavier the running back is, the more punishment they can take. So it definitely feels like a position of need for the 49ers. I just didn't like the value.
Was it a mistake not to take a safety early? And by early, I mean round 2 or round 3.
I believe so. Yes, it was. I'm going to say that definitively. Not just I believe so. Yes, it was a mistake. Rob. It was a mistake, Grant, and they're going to regret it.
This is the weakest position on the team, the biggest hole. Strong safety.
It is. And people are projecting the undrafted free agent signing of Leon O'Neal Jr. to potentially fill a need there. Maybe even have him grab that starting role. I really have my doubts there after watching him at the combine. Granted, it was just so black and white between it was Jalen Petrie and then Leon O'Neal Jr. So someone who is completely fluid in their movement that can, quick twitch, move his hips, just glides across the field. And then someone who is just not quite so eloquent in their movements. It was night and day watching them run drills back to back. It just happened to be that those were the two players that were back to back at the combine. It was a stark difference to me, and it highlighted why Leon O'Neal may have fallen out of the draft. So I see him as an undrafted free agent talent.
Small linebacker to me. He sounds like a guy that you want in the box, not someone in coverage ever. And
he does have a phenomenal attitude to be down in the box. I mean, when you go back and watch his interviews from the combine, he's a brash young gentleman that has that just ego that you want in a guy who's going to go down and hit people, lay down the wood. So I would see the attraction from that. I see the attraction as bringing him in as an undrafted free agent. But
also,
this is not.
I'm sure the attraction is special teams too. When you're looking at day 3 guys and undrafted free agent DBs who hit hard, special teams, man, that's where you make your mark first.
Yep. But for me, the value there at safety was absolutely there at 93. And the 49ers go running back there. Again, I already had my questions about value just purely from that being a running back selection at pick 93. But then take into account that you had Nick Cross and Kirby Joseph available at 93. Those aren't players that you needed to trade up to get. They were available when you were on the clock. Instead, they reached for a committee running back. Again, that isn't really a home run hitter. I think is a complementary role within the 49ers, but I'm not certain he's going to be the lead back. He needs to be the lead back in order to justify this freaking pick. Yep. You could have had your safety for the foreseeable future in either one of those candidates. I had great notes on both Nick Cross and Kirby Joseph, both being starting caliber safeties.
Yeah, and they were a little bit different. If you wanted a strong safety, that's Nick Cross. If you want a free safety who's a ball hawk, and move Jimmy Ward over to strong safety, you could take Kirby Joseph. The Niners instead took a running back who did nothing his freshman year, nothing his sophomore year, played at 230 last year, had a respectable year at LSU, didn't average 5 yards a carry, dropped 20 pounds to run a 4.8. Now he's going to go back up to 230. Was he going to run? He didn't look fast. I know he hit some high GPS. I don't know. It seems like if he can get way down the field, he might build up some speed, but it seems like he gets caught from behind before he gets there. So I don't know. And that was in college.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that even on that run where he recorded that high speed, he was caught from behind does show you that he's just not a home run hitter. That's not what they're looking for. And I get it, right? It's the big body back. But again, when you look at grabbing a big body back at 93 and what are you going to get out of him, right? I mean, most running backs, are the 49ers going to sign him to a second contract? I don't know, but their track record certainly doesn't indicate that that's a lock. And so you look at potentially a rental of a player for a period of time, whereas the safety pick does feel like a player that the 49ers could have had a starting safety for the next 10 years if they get the draft pick correct. And so when I compare the two values of position, it just doesn't make sense to me. What it illustrates is the 49ers have a much stronger belief in that pile of players that they have amassed at the safety position. I do not share that belief currently.
I believe the Niners have one starting caliber safety on their roster, and I think they're going to come to that realization quickly. And the only hope is for them, do they have cap space, and is Jaquiski Tartt still available? Because if Tartt were on this team, he'd still be your second best safety, and they'll figure that out. Maybe they just don't want Tartt to be there. Maybe they want to have a competition. But once everyone shows themselves to be the mediocrities that they are, call up Tartt September 2nd, 3rd, be like, man, we had a competition. Iron did not sharpen iron. Unfortunately, we need you. So, yeah.
Turned out we only had aluminum, and we just ended up denting each other. Hey, if Tartt came back in, that would be beautiful, right? Because you don't need to give him any practice time. I mean, the man knows the system. You could bring him in last minute. You would have a lot of reps throughout preseason to develop all these other players that will need to contribute at some level, certainly the year beyond. You do have flexibility. When you look at potentially moving Jimmy Ward over to the strong safety position, that really does align with the 49ers not having extended him yet, because you're looking at potentially a physically more demanding position for Jimmy Ward, someone who has suffered a large number of broken bones in his career. You could see the 49ers, hey, if we're going to let him go next year, we're willing to extend a little more risk towards Jimmy Ward's health.
Yeah. And then finally, we were saying instead of take a safety instead of Ty Davis Price in round 3. Rich Gravy says 287 yards, 3 TDs, LSU record. Yeah, see, that's the problem with how Kyle Shanahan scouts his running backs. He falls in love with a great game. It seems like it, because Trey Sermon, what did Trey Sermon do to get drafted in the 3rd round? Well, he destroyed Northwestern last year. He just eviscerated them. And then he had a very good game the next week against Clemson. Other than that, his college career was kind of nondescript, up and down, but he went for 331 yards against Northwestern, which was a very good team. So that's a pattern. And then Joe Williams, remember Joe? Big Joe?
Yes.
332 against UCLA. So it seems like Kyle is a little bit like Rich here, where if a guy can have one all-time record-breaking day, it somehow proves something to Kyle. Man, that's one day. There's been a lot of amateur athletes who were great for one day.
You know what he's probably thinking, though, and this just came to me, and I'm very pleased with myself, is Kyle Shanahan's ego is huge, right? I mean, there's just no disputing that, and it's deservedly so. The man is quite intelligent when it comes to offensive play design. He may believe my system is so superior to every other system out there that when a running back comes in, they are going to have the best games of their life. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at their highlight games, because those are the type of games they're going to put on tape for us. Hasn't quite worked out that way.
I think you're 100% right. I think you're 100% right. Michael says, why is Jimmy G still on the team? Mediocre Trey. Why is Jimmy G still on the team? Because John Lynch in particular has a very his resume isn't as strong as Parag's or Lynch or Kyle's.
No.
So the best thing on his resume is winning the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. Once he concedes defeat and cuts him or trades him for less than he got him, then what's the best thing he's done with the 49ers? I mean, I don't think he gets credit for Trey. That's Kyle. Everyone knows Jimmy Garoppolo is his guy. What's the best thing John's done if you take that off the ledger? Like,
Adam Peters seems to get the credit for most of the draft picks.
So I think John is unwilling to take the L. It's in the best interest of the organization for someone to take the L, but John won't, because he sees it as his L, not a collective L. If that's the case, then that's Jed's fault for saying, look, John, do it. We won't hold it against you. It was a group decision to keep him. It wasn't your decision. So that's on Jed. I mean, I'm just projecting here.
That's fair. I disagree slightly on that. I criticize the 49ers for the way in which they failed to trade Jimmy up until this point. But once we got past where the quarterback carousel sort of filled every chair, then I agreed with the 49ers that there was no reason to release him just yet. You can continue to keep him on the roster for a little while. At some point, they will need to release him. But right now, it does them no good. Their hope is that they can trade him for something. And if they do, that is an asset that's valuable. So I'm with them on right now. It's prudent to hold on to him.
Coach says Grant's face. You hate Kyle's guts. He's talking about when you said that Kyle Shanahan has a huge ego, and deservedly so. I went to the Robert De Niro face though, because it's like, yeah, I mean, but his ego is the ego of someone who won 2 Super Bowls. So I would say not deservedly. Like, yeah, I mean, I have an ego. You deserve an ego, Kyle, but he does carry himself like someone who invented football and won 2 Super Bowls. So I would just say,
tone it down just a little.
Take it down from an 11. You're at an 11 right now.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
Jeremy says QC merch incoming. Oh, you better bet soon. All right, last one. The Niners' best undrafted free agent. We haven't seen him play yet. Maybe it's more your favorite undrafted free agent. I already have one. Who's yours?
Okay, so I was tempted one way and then went another. So I'll mention my first, but I won't give any spoilers just in case that happens to be the one that you selected. But again, 14 rookie free agents coming in, so many bodies to choose from in this one. The 49ers seem to have gone for numbers instead of targeting specific players, but with undrafted free agents, fine, great. Bring in as many as you want. All that costs is money out of Jed's pocketbook. I'm fine with that. I was tempted to go with sort of the crush that everyone is falling on for athletic reasons with Jason Poe, but I went a different route. I went the idea of need. The 49ers did not draft a center, in my estimation, bringing in Donovan West. He was a draftable player first and foremost. So that, to me, jumps him up to the front of the line. I had him listed as a day 3 guy, but, I absolutely trust Dane Brugler of The Athletic. He had him rated as the 8th best center with a 5th round grade on him. He's 6'3", 296 pounds. He's not huge, but neither was Weston Richburg, and he was successful within Shanahan's offense. He has good length on his arms, 33-inch arms, good for a center. Light on his feet, good for the system. Never was called for a holding penalty. That's a freaking win. That's music to my ears. And played in 29 consecutive games before actually having the thumb surgery in the offseason. To me, this was both a good player, both a value pick, and a position of need. So it was 3 wins combined for my favorite undrafted free agent.
Why did he not get drafted?
I don't know. That's a great question. It felt as if some of those
combine. I mean,
some of those centers seemed to slip after the top tier ones.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Donovan West. I'm going to go with the running back, Jordan Mason.
Ooh.
I always love the Niners undrafted running backs. This guy's different than Hasty, different than Breida. Jordan Mason is a lot like Ty Davis Price. Same old. He only ran a 4.58. And he got a lot of between the tackle carries, a lot of goal line carries, and he's really a tough runner. But I just think he's better than Ty Davis Price. I haven't seen them both on an NFL field yet, but I'm looking at Ty Davis Price. He did nothing his first 2 years. He had a few big games his last year. Yeah, he was in the SEC. This guy, Jordan Mason, was an impact player the moment he stepped foot on campus at Georgia Tech. He averaged 6 yards a carry as a freshman. He led the Georgia Tech in rushing as a sophomore. When he got there, it was the triple option offense. So he's lining up at like fullback, getting those dive plays. Then they get a new coach. They're more of like a traditional spread offense now. He's in the shotgun, running between the tackle. I mean, you can see him doing the outside zone stuff, kind of like Alfred Morris. It reminds me a little bit of Alfred Morris, except he runs harder. I like Jordan Mason. And again, it's like if you could get a guy like that after the draft, why would you ever draft a running back? I think he's a better route runner than Ty Davis. I think he's got a better hands than Ty Davis Price. I like Jordan Mason. This guy is going to be someone who's going to be fun to watch in preseason. He's going to run really freaking hard.
So if Mason outdoes Davis Price this year, obviously Elijah Mitchell well outdid Trey Sermon last year. Will that finally be enough evidence for Kyle Shanahan to say, you know what? Maybe Grant is right. Maybe I shouldn't be drafting these guys in the 3rd round. Maybe I should wait until the end of the draft or those undrafted free agent and not waste those valuable picks.
It's not just me and you who's saying it. Don't you think his dad saying it too? He's like, Kyle, did you not pay attention to my drafts when you were in middle school and I was in Denver or whatever? He was in high school or something. Like, I don't do that. We proved this in the 90s. The results are in. Like this is on your third time that you've fallen in love with a running back, Kyle, and needed to draft him.
Yeah.
The first two were
2 strikes.
The first two didn't even come close. Joe
Whiffs.
Williams never played. Trey Sermon, you gave up on before he started 2 games. So why would you keep doing it? I don't know. What did they say the definition of insanity is?
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Also, if you wanted to take a running back in round 3, wouldn't you do it like when you had Bobby Turner to sort of hold your hand with that decision? I would.
Yeah, that would have made me feel a little more comfortable.
This doesn't seem like a Bobby Turner guy at all. He kind of stutter steps behind the line. He's not a one-cut guy. I don't know, man. Kyle, you better be right because you're 0 for 2 right now. I don't know. But I like Jordan Mason. That's the thing about Kyle, okay? So he makes a mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake, but let's say he makes a mistake, and then, boom, he salvages it with the next one. Oh, Trey Sermon's terrible? We got Elijah Mitchell. Who cares? Great.
He believes in insurance, Grant. Yeah. Insurance is a nice thing when those first decisions don't turn out well. You got that insurance plan.
Yeah. Maybe he takes the running back in round 3 just to lower the expectations for the guy he takes later so that guy can just slide in. Maybe he wants Jordan Mason. Go watch Jordan Mason highlights right now. He's a lot of fun.
It's the decoy pick.
It's the decoy pick. All right. Well, that's the end of the show. Are you streaming anymore today?
I will be on at 4 p.m. on my channel with Jack Hammer. So go ahead and tune in for that. It's going to be phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Is that Jim Rome?
I don't know. It just comes to me. I just do voices, Grant, and I have certainly watched enough television in my day that I'm impersonating someone with almost every voice.
There was a classic Jim Rome impersonation when I was in college by Frank Caliendo. I don't remember if you ever saw it, like 2007, 2006. It was classic. Anyway,
Frank Caliendo is pretty damn good at those.
Yeah. Matthew says Kyle not drafting running backs. He's building a Megazord running back. Is that a Power Rangers reference? Where they all join together?
Good Lord.
Man, that would be crazy. You know, Jalen Hurd was the original Megazord. He's a free agent. Quick, free agents the Niners could sign right now. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis, Quan Alexander, Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen is just chilling, waiting.
Dude, Marquise Goodwin.
Just out there. Oh, wait, Dante Pettis? Are you kidding, bro? He deserves a 4th chance. What do you think?
Bring the cat back.
John Weber has been trying to get my attention all day with very mean things. So what I'm going to do is just for him, bring him on the show for a second and let you know that I am blocking you and I don't like you and you're not welcome here anymore.
Goodness gracious.
See you, John. But I like that he stayed here and watched the whole show. I wanted his views. I wanted the clicks. I was like, should I ban him now or let him watch the whole show? I'm going to let him watch the whole show.
No, let him hate watch. Let him hate watch.
Yeah. So sorry, John. We'll probably see him again. Probably have a different name. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. Watch Rob and Jack today at 4 on Rob's channel.
4 p.m.
4 p.m. 7 Eastern.
Yes.